up, everybody? This is Jake from the Gym Rat Review, and I'm excited to bring you our first video sneaker performance review. At the Gym Rat Review, our goal is to bring you the most in-depth, comprehensive sneaker reviews you can find, and doing them in a video format alongside our written format that you might know from the gymratreview.com is just going to provide us another way to give you those in-depth sneaker reviews. The first shoe we're going to review is the Nike Zoom HyperRev. When we do our reviews, we like to break them down into 5 different sections or categories. We're going to have the fit, heel-toe transition, cushion, traction, materials, and durability. And rather than give you a score on a scale of 1 through 10 in each of those categories, instead we're going to kind of lay the shoe out on a scale. For example, for fit, we have a scale for lockdown from loose to secure. On either end of that scale, we're going to plot the shoe on there to kind of show you where it falls, and also to ease comparison to the other shoes that we've done, and where we place those on the same scales. So getting into the fit of the HyperRev, the build is a full mesh build, mesh exterior with a foam lining. You can kind of see the details of that foam in through there. You have a fixed tongue that goes up basically just over the top of the foot, stops right before the ankle. You can see here that that's all one piece. The upper is kind of a one-piece deal here. Up top around your ankle, you have a proprioceptive ankle collar, which basically means it moves with your foot, and it's very flexible. You can see there's a little bit of added security with the ankle strap right there. Obviously not going to give you any support, but it is comfortable and it's going to make you feel at least a little bit more secure. The lockdown from the toes to the midfoot comes from the 5 fly wire cables right here. The laces are locked directly into those fly wire cables. Cables wrap around the laces, and that's what pulls tight to your foot to give you that fit through the toe box to the midfoot. And that part of the shoe was excellent. I felt I didn't have any slippage issues, whether I was playing and pushing off, playing defense, shooting pull-ups in transition, whatever. No slippage there. The heel, however, is a different story. The HyperRev is designed with natural motion in mind, and because of that, there is no solid heel counter back here to lock the foot down over the footbed. It is a little bit more stiff than the rest of the shoe, so there is a slight little bit of structure in there, but there is no heel counter, internal, external, and that is probably the biggest aspect as far as providing you ankle support. And then with the lacing system the way it is, it doesn't lace up any higher than the top of your foot. So whereas on a normal shoe you'll be able to lace into the top 2 eyelets up here. Those eyelets are what tie directly into your ankle, or into your heel, and pull that shoe tight around your ankle and heel. This shoe doesn't have that at all. So the heel fit, you're definitely going to notice some slippage. It's going to be a little bit disconcerting to you, especially if you're someone who values ankle support. Most of your ankle support is going to start with the heel fit. If your heel is locked in and solid, your foot's not going to be sliding around inside there, so it's going to be less likely that you're going to take a wrong step and just roll your ankle over. So the fit is good through the toes, midfoot, heel not so much. I didn't mind it because I like having that freedom of movement and that flexibility throughout the upper, but I can definitely see if you're someone that needs ankle support, values that security, you definitely want to take a second look at the HyperRev, because I'm not sure if it'll work for you. The next aspect is heel-toe transition. And when we talk about heel-toe transition, that's basically how smooth the shoe feels from heel strike to toe off. So just however you're walking along, running, dead sprint, whatever, how smooth is that shoe? And you do want it to be smooth. You almost want it to be kind of a roll forward, effortless. You want to not notice it. When you kind of feel a heel strike and then a toe strike and it's a little slappy, that's when you have issues. HyperRev, given that it's built with a Phyllite midsole, which is a lighter, a little bit less dense foam compound than a lot of the ones Nike uses, the heel-toe transition is excellent. It's perfect. Other than the Crazy Quick, the best transition as far as being real smooth and real effortless. The HyperRev is very, very, very good in that area. The Zoom bag, which we'll get into in a little bit, aids that as well. It's flexible and responsive, so no complaints from the transition department. The next aspect we're getting to is cushioning, and when we break down cushioning, we break it down into 3 different aspects. We'll have just how soft or how firm the cushioning feels. We're also going to have the court feel, which is basically how stable you feel on the court, how low to the ground you play. The lower to the ground, the better in most cases. And then we're also going to have responsiveness, which is how much energy return you get out of that shoe with each step. And in all 3 of those aspects, the HyperRev is absolutely excellent. You can see the large zoom bag through the huge zoom window underneath there. And if you have tried other Nike shoes or read some of our reviews, you know not all zoom bags are created equal. Some zoom bags are lower profile than others. They may be bottom loaded. They may only have a met bag up here underneath the ball of your foot, or there may only be a heel bag. This one though is full length. It hits the foot directly. Very, very responsive and bouncy, and very comfortable just as far as step-in comfort goes. I know that's a big thing to a lot of people when they first try on a shoe in stores, just how comfortable when I put it on my foot. And the HyperRev is excellent. The Phyllite midsole, like I said before, is a lighter weight compound than Phylon or Lunarlon. It's very soft, very bouncy. So the cushioning across all three aspects, you know, just as far as how soft it is, the responsiveness, and then the court feel is all excellent. The zoom bag is the major player in all of that, because obviously the zoom bag is designed with little fibers stitched to kind of two platforms, so when you step on those fibers and they compress, they're going to expand back out, and that's what gives you that responsiveness. So excellent cushioning on all fronts from the HyperRev. My one complaint though comes from the support, which there basically is none underneath the foot. The midsole is not overly sculpted. You'll see it's sort of flat along here, and that's how it is on the interior as well. And then that zoom bag, it looks really cool, and I love you know, being a fan of shoe design. I like being able to see the technology and see that on the interior. But as a player, I would have liked to see a midfoot shank in here, or something solid to give me a little bit of lateral support and a little bit of vertical support too, just for my arches. And my arches were a little sore the first couple times wearing them, just because I wasn't used to having that much flexibility all through the shoe. So I would have liked to see maybe this zoom window kept just to the heel and had that rubber extend across the bottom of the shoe, just to give me a little bit more support and stability. Next up is the traction, and to be honest, the traction is one area that I was disappointed in with the HyperRev. As you can see, it's a modified herringbone pattern. Herringbone is the zigzag pattern you'll see on a lot of Nike shoes, and it's kind of the industry standard. That's going to provide the best traction day in, day out. You're going to get that squeak when you stop and start. That kind of reassures you to let you know that traction is solid. And there's a couple problems I think with the HyperRev. The first is that these grooves just aren't very deep. You know, you have the flex grooves right here, which aid in just the flex in your transition and just moving around. But other than that, the grooves here are just not deep enough. And a lot of the dust on whatever floor you may be playing on is going to stick to the bottom of the shoe. You know, I played on mostly very well kept courts, very nice facilities, and every chance I got, I was wiping the bottom of these shoes off. And it just kind of gets tiresome after a while, and it's a little bit disconcerting to know that you don't quite have the footing that you really want, especially playing defense when you're trying to sit down in a stance and move laterally and not being able to push off and go because you don't quite have the traction you need. That's a problem. And then also the foam compound they use for the outsole is very soft. That rubber, the rubber compound, the rubber is very soft, partially because it is a natural motion shoe and they're trying to build as much flexibility into the shoe as possible, but this rubber compound just doesn't have enough stickiness or tackiness, whatever it may be, and is not hard enough to really provide you with great stopping power. So while I did have some pretty high expectations for the shoe, given the fact that it is sort of a herringbone pattern, I was pretty disappointed in that aspect. And then finally, what we always end with is our outlook on the materials and durability of the shoe, how well you know, it's built and how well we think it's going to hold up over time. And like I said before, it's a full mesh build. And I don't have any complaints with it right now. I've been playing it for about 3.5 weeks, and I haven't seen any issues as far as durability goes crop up. Nothing, no blowouts or anything yet. But I am a little worried with the mesh being stitched directly into the midsole here. There's a lot of stress put on this area of the foot when you're planting and pushing off, dragging your toe on a crossover, something like that. There's a lot of stress that's put on that interior part right there, and I just don't see that mesh being able to stand up for a long period of time. You know, when you have a shoe that's built with a hyperfuse upper or some other type of upper material, leather, God forbid they would ever use that again, it's going to be a lot more durable, a lot thicker throughout the toe portion especially, and I just don't know how well this mesh is going to hold up. You do have some fuse overlays on the toe here and then along the lateral side along the toe, just to protect against toe drag. If you're someone like Chris Paul, for example, drags his toes quite a bit on his crossover, so his shoes, you'll see, are always built with an extra piece right here to protect against toe drag. The HyperRev has that in a very minimalist sense, and it also has it on the lateral portion of the shoe here, because that's an area of the foot in the shoe that gets a lot of stress when you're planting, pushing off and changing direction. This lateral portion is going to take a lot of the forces of you pushing off on that side of the foot and changing direction. So they tried to head that off a little bit by giving you some fuse overlays there. You also see some fuse overlays around the heel, although that's not quite as functional as the ones up front. And with all that being said, the long-term outlook for these shoes, I can't quite rate it as highly as some of the other ones that I played in. The last shoes I played in before this were the Zoom Kobe Phenomenon 4, which is a full hyperfuse build, very sturdy, thick, not quite as flexible upper, but definitely a little bit more reassuring when it comes to long-term durability. So while I haven't seen any issues crop up with this shoe yet, I do have my doubts to how well it'll hold up over time. To close the review, I'll first of all say that I really enjoyed playing in this shoe. It did have its drawbacks. It's not a perfect shoe, but being a guard, someone that plays low to the ground and needs to be, as light and as quick on my feet as possible, I really enjoyed playing the shoe. The unrestricted movement, the flexibility, the responsiveness of the cushioning, just the overall comfort of the shoe was great. I loved it from that aspect. But I also understand that not everyone is built like me. You have slashers, you have big guys, bigger guards, whatever it may be, and I just can't see this shoe holding up real well for a variety of position types, just because there's literally no support in the heel. The shoe doesn't even lace up past the top of your foot. Right here you have no laces that are going to lock the heel in, no heel counter to lock the heel in, and then underneath, like I said, there's no midfoot shank in here to give you any kind of stability underneath. The shoe's very comfortable. Like I said, very well cushioned. Probably when you try it on the store, you'll think it's the most comfortable basketball shoe you've ever put on your foot. Honestly, it's that nice. But there's a give and take when you want to get into this natural motion game that Nike has gotten into with the HyperRev. With all that flexibility, freedom of movement, soft cushioning, you're going to give up support and stability. And I do have to compare it to another natural motion shoe that came out earlier this past year, the Adidas Crazy Quick. If any of you have read much on the site, you'll know that was my favorite performance shoe of 2013. And it differed in two major areas from the HyperRev. They both were flexible. They both were comfortable as far as the upper goes. The Crazy Quick had that Tech Fit upper, which was glorious, fit like a glove. But it also had the sprint frame heel counter, which for one locked your foot in over the footbed. And the midsole was also quite a bit more sculpted and more firm. And while some people I know hated the cushioning, the Crazy Quick thought it was too firm, that's, in my opinion, what really allowed the shoe to be so good. Because it was firm, along with being flexible and still retain some responsiveness, that's what put that shoe over the top for me, being my favorite shoe of the year, and that's what sets it apart from the HyperRev. The HyperRev just doesn't have that support through the heel or the midfoot. It's a good shoe. I enjoyed playing in it, but I just can't see it working for a wide variety of players. Thanks for tuning in to the HyperRev review. Next up will probably be the Zoom Crusader, which Finch is working on right now. He also played in the Converse Aero Jam Retro actually last week in our league game. I'm not sure what he's going to be breaking out this week, but rest assured we'll get you a couple more videos here coming up soon. I personally will be looking to review the Kobe 9 when the next colorways comes out, and also the Crazy Quick 2.